Hello, this is Omar for Awesome SVGs, and I hope you're having a great week. Today I'll show you how to color this cute postcard I made for my niece. The postcard features this little girl with a bow on her hair and a bunch of lettering on the side with the words "You're growing up so fast." There's a bunch of hearts and the words "I love you" on the bottom. The back of the card is also included as a PDF file, and there is also a different file if you want to make this postcard for a boy. So I took off the bow on the hair, so you can head over to my blog and download both files. I printed the images on expressive blending card, which to me is the best cardstock there is for Copic blending. This is a very white and very smooth paper. I think it's a 60-pound paper, and the back of the postcard was printed on Nina Solar White cardstock, 110 pound. This is a very thick cardstock that will give strength to your postcard. I also included cutting marks, so it's easier for you to get the correct size when you print them and then cut them. I used my brother laser printer to print these images. Laser printing is Copic safe, and this brother printer gives great definition on the images. I always like to choose my colors following the hex chart from Sandy Alnock. I will include a link to her blog in case you want to get this chart. This is a great way to choose your colors and to get a great blending. I also use my Copic marker hand color chart, the one that you can download at the Copic site. It's a great asset to have. Let's start with the coloring. Here's my selection for the skin tones. I will put the number of the Copic marker I'm using on the top left corner of the screen. Being new to coloring tutorials, sometimes I forget to put down the cap of the color I'm using. I first apply my lightest color when I'm coloring skin, and then I use my middle tone to apply some shadows and have a good idea of where my shadows have to be placed. My light is coming from the top left corner of the postcard, so I'm doing shadows on the opposite side. I like to use an E4 for my shadows, and I also like to use a violet color, as you know. I'm applying very rough shadows. I don't want to blend them too much. I wanted this postcard and this image to have kind of like a manga feeling, like Japanese anime type of shadows that are not very blended. Then I went back with my middle tone, which is my E00. To kind of blend that hard shadow. I also used my R20 to apply some blush on the cheeks, and then finally went back to my lightest shade. And to finish it up, I used my B12 to deepen those shadows. Purple is a great color to use when you are applying shadows to your skin tones. Here's my hair selection. I used a very light color, an E50. So what I like to do first is place my highlights, and I do a very rough coloring of my highlight, and then start applying my midtones and then my dark tones with flicks of my marker towards the highlight. kind of following the hair strands. You want to do a flicking motion, that way you will end up with a hair looking coloring. Finally, my darkest shade, which is an E57. I went back to my middle tone, my E23, to kind of blend that darker color. And then I went back to my E31 to give it a little bit more blending. I used my E57 to color the shadow of the bow on the hair, and I used the same colors for the eyes. I wanted to keep the color story here, so I went with my E57, my E23, and my E31. I kind of went back with my darker and my midtones to blend those colors. Sometimes people get confused with the eyes in manga drawing. The center circle of the eyes is the pupil, so you have to color it darker than the outside. And always remember to put a little bit of gray. I used a warm gray here around the white of the eye. There are thin lines that mark the outline of the eyes. I used my E57 for the eyebrows, and I put a darker color in the center of the eyebrows to give it more definition. For the mouth, I used my E4. I think it kind of looks like the inside of the mouth. And for the shirt, I picked very, very bright pink colors. Unlike the skin tones, I like to achieve a great contrast on the clothing. I used very dark shadow colors, and my midtones are kind of in the middle between a very light and a very dark shadow. So I used an RV17 for the shadows and RV6, so it was a little more bright pink. And then I used an RV04 for my midtone and an RV10 for my highlight. I then went back with my shadow color, which is the RV17, then the RV4 to kind of blend that in. Remember not to go too heavy on your midtone. Just leave those spaces very, very light. Do the same for the bow. Apply the darkest color, which is your shadow, the RV17. Kind of blend that in, the highlight with the RV04, and finally the RV10. Go back in so you can darken the shadows. Your midtone. And then start coloring the pants. I chose this very dark blue color, which is a B39. I applied a B97, which is a lot less saturated color. I think it kind of looks good, and it gives that jeans fabric kind of look. Remember to keep the contrast going on. So apply a very light color to blend. In this case is a B00, and go back with your darkest color. So you darken the shadows. just have to kind of follow the lines of the drawing to make the folds of the clothing. And a BG72, which is also a less saturated color for that jeans fabric kind of look. I wanted to ground the character on the floor, so I used a W3 to color some shadows underneath, and then I decided it was too light, so I went back with a W5 and blended that in with a W3. I didn't want the background to stand out, so I used a V12, which is the color I always use for the shadows on the skin. And I wanted to leave those exclamation kind of marks around blank, so you can color them any color you want, but I decided to color them black with a multi-liner. The lettering was colored with a two-tone technique. It's a light color and a darker color on the bottom. I also applied some highlights with a white gel pen. You could see me correcting. My marker was kind of juicy, so it kind of went all over the paper there. And I wanted to do a transition between a light blue color to a kind of green color at the bottom. So I'm transitioning with a G03 here, and I ended up with a YD family color marker. So it's a YG21 for the main color, and I used a YG03 for the bottom of the letters. I colored the hearts with an RV04, which is the same color I used for my mid-tone on the bows. And then I did all my details with colored pencils. Remember to keep the pencils very sharpened with sharp points. And I used blacks and browns for the eyes. Here's a detail on how I color the eyes so they look kind of real. So you draw very thin lines around the iris of the eye. And draw some hair strands. Remember to keep the point of your pencil very sharp. Always sharpen them. And you can go darker on your dark color. I used a very dark brown, and also I used black on a few areas of the hair. You can kind of do separate strands of hair. I like the definition that colored pencils give to the drawings. It's a lot more defined than what you get with the Copic markers. I did some details on the shadow of the bow, and I also darkened the right side of the hair. Here's a couple of details I did with a black pencil, and then I drew some strands of hair here and there to make it look more organic. Remember to keep the point sharpened at all times. I think the hair is what takes me the longest on these drawings. And I also drew and colored some of the shadows with a light violet color. I have to remember to hold my pencil not too close to the point so you can see better. Sorry about that. But I kind of get the idea. A very sharp point, very light pressure on your colored pencils, so you don't get lines that are too harsh. I think violet looks great for skin tone shadows. I think it looks a lot more organic. I also applied a darker shade of pink for the folds of the clothing. And I kind of did a couple more wrinkles on the clothes, on the shirt, and also on the pants with the colored pencils. Don't go too heavy on the highlights because you will lose the contrast. And don't be afraid to go darker on your shadows. I used a very dark blue color to finish up the pants. And then I went in with a light blue color, which is less saturated, to give it that fabric look. I erased some of the marks I made with my hands when I was coloring. You know, your fingers get some of the color in and you can smudge it, so I erased it. And then I applied some details with a white gel pen. This is a Signo, a Uniball Signo broad point gel pen. It's great to apply the color. You have to be careful, and sometimes you have to run the point of the marker on your finger to get the ink flowing, because it's sometimes kind of hard to write on top of the colored pencils. But it's a great marker, and it always delivers. If your lines are too thick, you can always go back with the colored pencils, a very sharp colored pencil, and erase those lines. For thinner lines, I used a Jelly Roll pen, Sakura Jelly Roll pen. This is a much finer tip pen to make smaller details on your image. The way I do my highlights is I apply the highlight where the light hits the character, and I also apply a highlight on the shadow. This is called the reflective light or reflecting light. And it gives a lot more contrast also. I also applied some details on the lettering with a white gel pen and a clear glitter pen for the bow and the little hearts. I finished the postcard with microglaze from Judikins. This will waterproof your image. Don't go too heavy on top of the colored pencils. Let it dry for a while, let it sit, and then buff any excess with a paper towel. It also makes your colors a lot deeper. Now turn your image around, put it in a box, apply a coat of spray adhesive, and glue it on top of the back of the postcard. And if it's not too perfect, you can always cut any excess away I used an A plate and my embossing machine to allow it to glue correctly, and finally a corner chomper to round the corners. This will protect and prevent the postcard from ungluing on the mail. Here's the finished postcard. I know it's been a long tutorial, but I like to show you my whole process in coloring these kind of images. I hope you give this image a try sometime. Remember that the link to download this project is on the description below. Don't forget to visit my blog for more details on these images. Here are a couple more videos you could be interested in. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.